Hey kids, it's Mr. D. How you doing? Are you being good? I hope you're being good. I just want to talk to you a little bit about tides. And I found this really awesome simulator, and I'll share it with you as well. But this simulator shows how the moon and the sun create the tides. So this is the Earth right here, and this blue line is the oceans. What happens is the moon, the gravitational pull from the moon, pulls the oceans and creates high and low tides. So the area that's closest to the moon or furthest away from the moon has the high tide, and the areas on the sides of the earth has a low tide. As you can see, it's closer to the earth. Okay? Now there are two types of tides. There are spring tides and there are neap tides. Neap is spelled N-E-A-P. Now spring tides are when the earth, the moon, and the sun are in a straight line. And that means that the gravitational pull from the sun along with the moon pulls on the oceans and makes the tides. Those tides are significantly bigger. Now, if we think about our lunar phases, when the sun, the moon, and the earth are lined up, it's either a new moon or a full moon on this side. Okay? So when sailors or people that worked with the ocean were trying to figure out when was the best time to go out or when the tide was the highest, they realized that it was cyclical, that it happened in a predictable pattern. It happened when there was a new moon or a full moon. Okay? But then when the moon is on the sides of the earth, the gravitational pull for the sun and the moon kind of counteract each other, and the tides are not very strong. Those are called neap tides. Okay? Now this simulator actually goes into motion, and I'm going to show it to you. All right? So right here is a neap tide, and you see it's not pulling the ocean as far. Okay? But then it's going to go back to a spring tide, and you'll see now the ocean is pulled much further because it's the pull of the moon this direction and the pull of the sun this direction, so it's really pulling on the oceans. And then back to a neap tide. So this simulator really shows every single month that the tides occur in a very predictable pattern. This simulator also has a labeling feature, so I'm going to click on it right now. And it's going to show you how the neap tides and the spring tides occur predictably. And over here it shows you what month it is. Okay, so watch. So we have a spring tide, neap tide, spring, neap. Okay, so it just happens in a predictable pattern. It's very fascinating, but if you think about the people that work in the oceans and they need to leave I need to leave to go fishing during a high tide. Well, they know that the high tides are going to occur in a very predictable pattern. Okay? Now I'm going to show you another short video that explains this again, but just keep in mind neap tide is the weaker of the tide, where it's just the moon, and the spring tides are like a spring. They're the big tides, and that's when the sun and the moon and the earth are lined up. Okay? Here's the other video. This is a simulation of the moon orbiting the earth and the two types of tides, the spring tide and the neap tide. Now the interesting thing is if you watch this, the spring tides are very, very strong, and that's because they occur during a new moon over here and a full moon over here, and that means that the sun is over here. So you not only have the gravitational pull of the moon on the oceans, but you also have the gravitational pull of the sun. So spring tides are much stronger than the neap tides. So if you watch the water level during a neap tide, it's not quite as high, is it? But when it gets to the full moon or to the new moon, it's significantly higher.